Walmart Business is in the business of helping your business, regardless of whether you're building bridges, building spreadsheets, or building lesson plans. Ooh, that looks fun. Walmart Business can help save you time, money, and hassle so you can focus on what you're building instead of what your supply closet is missing. In short, we take care of business so you can do more with yours. We're the Walmart you love, now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com.
More rewards, more savings. With American Express Business Gold, earn up to $395 back in annual statement credits on eligible purchases at select shipping, food delivery, and retail subscription merchants, including the $155 Walmart Plus monthly membership credit and $240 flexible business credit. Enjoy the benefits of membership with the Amex Business Gold Card. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
Good morning, Crust. It's a great day to be a bread brother.
Ugh, mornings are not my jam. Or jelly.
Oh, come on. Stop loafing around.
I just woke up feeling hollow inside.
Psst, just grab one of the new Morning Uncrustables sandwiches, like Bright-Eyed Berry or Up and Apple, filled with 12 grams of protein and tons of deliciousness. Crust, what are you eating?
It's just granola, not even yogurt.
No crust, no fuss. Uncrust your mornings.
What a week of rugby it was. The reviews are in, and Johan Erasmus gives it 2 thumbs up. Let's start the show. Hello and welcome back to Bit of an Animal, the South African Rugby Union podcast here on the Global Gainlines YouTube channel and the Global Gainlines podcast network. I'm happy to be looking at my screen and seeing a full bomb squad. Jan and Demikosi have joined us once again, and we've got a special guest in the front row, arguably South Africa's best rugby union journalist, Jan De Koning. Jan, happy to have you on.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Jan, we've known each other for quite some time now. I'm pleased to see that you've returned back to the podcast arena now, not only audio, but as well as video. And yeah, I encourage everybody to like and subscribe and click the notification bell to Jan's new podcast, which can be found on the Megaphone Rugby YouTube channel, as well as the Rugby Unfiltered 2025 YouTube channels. That's one word, Rugby Unfiltered 2025. If you type in the rugby space unfiltered, you'll get an AI channel that's quite interesting indeed. So, gentlemen, lots to talk about this week, so let's get stuck in. South Africa defeating Ireland, so that's Ireland 13, South Africa 24. Jan, we'll go to you first. Much has been said about this game this week, but I won't lead the witness. I'll let you start off with your initial thoughts.
I think the Irish got what they asked for. A lot of people keep talking and splitting me. Because we bullied them. We beat them physically, we beat them psychologically, and they started giving silly penalties away. And I said it in another podcast. If you fall flat on your belly all the time, if you go into the scrums and you keep falling flat on your belly, the referee penalizes you, warns you again. Eventually, he's going to start issuing yellow cards. That was 2 of the yellow cards. The other 2 were for cynical fouls. I mean, slapping a ball out of a guy's hand and then pretending it's an accident. We all know what happens. And there's so many, they got away with so much. Eventually, the referee got tired. So I think the Boks played that very well. It wasn't the prettiest of game, but even good teams win ugly, and they win well. And I think the Springboks won very well.
Yeah, I concur with those assessments. Jean, 4 wins on the bounce now. 1 more game this weekend. What are your feelings about the tour thus far?
Yeah, I think and I think I share the sentiment of Jan in that, while we're not proud or it doesn't make you feel good, I think we became a bit of a bully there in that game. And Ireland certainly came into the match, I think, definitely with the intent of proving we can be just as physical as South Africa, especially after the 2023 Rugby World Cup pool match. I think they felt that in terms of physicality and aggression, they can match us. And even if they can't contain us, they can be on par with us. And I think that's what led to um, the red card and now suspension for I believe it's James Ryan for that. I don't know what to call that Superman clear out on Malcolm Marx. But yeah, I think it's been a good tour for the box. Um, I think certainly some things have been shown to us, and I know Rassie is always one looking to learn. So, you know, if you take a quick look at the games, we can see that the young props he brought along, definitely there's some work there that needs to happen. Um, but they're showing already, you know, being in that environment, similar to Buan Fainter, being in that environment and you know that slow introduction, not rushing people in and hoping they cope. It definitely pays off. Against France, I think France mentally was the toughest match for us. Having to go through losing Lewitt, adjusting on the fly. It's Sia's 100th, he's coming off, and then opening up that last 20 minutes. Against Italy, I think Italy is the only team this year that I really feel have gotten the best of the Bok pack in terms of scrums. Happy so far. Um, I just feel like we definitely have some notes, and it's a shorter list than previous years, but we do have some notes going into next year, and I hope that in terms of next year, we now see that continuity starting to build with this is the fast-paced team, this is the conservative team, and you know that structure, and I'm excited to see what Rassie does with it next year.
Interesting. Then because we won, we might have probably put more points on them in the second half. Some of the Irish media are clinging to the fact that they won the second half in terms of points. They got 6 and we got 5. Do you concur with me that good performance, but still things to work on?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It was a good performance. And I don't know about winning the second half, but if we're going in terms of points, I think they're right. But to also, I think the way we played, especially in the second half, we weren't really going for points. I think if we were going for points, we would have kicked more penalties through this match, but we didn't. It seems like we wanted to physically be upfront with them and see who eventually gives in first. Uh, but in terms, but yeah, I think they did put up a good fight in the second half because they almost got within 7, but they didn't. I think we did enough in the first half for us to be in the lead, and even when they tried to come back and fight with us, it was already too late.
John, you want to come in here, please?
Yeah, no, look, I think I'm in agreement with Tembe and Corsi. And I think the fact that we spend so much energy going for repeated scrum infringements, um, I think the problem there is we went for the scrum so many times that we allowed their backline essentially an additional 10, 15 minutes rest
Mm.
before we decided to go to shift the attack point away. And I remember watching and I was like, watch. Um, at some point these guys are gonna pull the trigger because I was watching and I saw like it was Lebok, Moody, and Willems are all stacked 100% behind each other. And then the scrum collapses. And then they go to a standard formation, and then the next one, you can see our whole back they're nervous because the man short. And again, it's Barney, it's Sasha. Moody is off to the side, and you can see they've got a plan here. A move is about to come, but they've stacked the field in such a way that Ireland's not sure are we going left or right. And then we keep going to that scrum penalty where feel like after the third time we should have said, okay, guys, let's go to the corner. We know that if we get another scrum, these guys are going to come in mentally broken already. We're going to get a penalty out of it. But while we are also still fresh, let's go there. So I think there we did leave some points on the table, and I think that's why we struggled so much in defeating the Irish backline through our backline play. Is because for large parts we allowed them to rest instead of keeping them working like we did with the French.
Look, it's obviously a tactic, and it didn't quite work out in terms of the way we wanted to, but I could see what they were trying to do. I actually saw that as well in the second half. It was like constantly going for the try, for the scrum. Referee was being somewhat lenient with them towards the end because a couple more, they should have really gotten two more yellow cards, in my opinion, anyway. Jan, it's quite interesting that it's almost like the shoes on the other foot because it was really, if I remember correctly, the loss of the Irish that put the fork into Alistair Coetzee, which then started this whole journey we've gone on with Rassie and his team. But the Irish are freaking out now to a degree, but I still feel like they're a reasonably good team, and they've got 2 years. I guess I'm World Cup rugby obsessed. They've got 2 years to like refresh the squad. However, as we've seen on the Interpro show, the other podcast, the Irish podcast on this YouTube channel, it seems like nobody in Ireland is convinced that Andy Farrell is going to pick anyone other than his close mates.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much Ireland can improve. The problem is that they're so obsessed with Leinster. So I mean, you've got the bulk of the team built around Leinster, which works in some countries or works like in Italy. It works because of the limited resources. But the problem is you've got three other provinces, and Ireland do have provinces. That's actually provinces. So you got three other provinces which don't get a look in. Your talent pool is so shallow that the guys that are coming in, so that's why their bench is so weak, and that's a big problem. So we've got this depth thing, and people don't understand this. We can select two teams of equal strength quite comfortably, and a third team that's pretty close. They don't have this experience, and maybe they're not the composure. Ireland have the Leinster way of playing and nothing else, and that's the one reason why we. I know the scoreline suggests that they were close, and maybe the second half the scoreline was close. But if you go look at, we play territory, 60% of the territory was ours. Because in that second half, all we did was kick it in their half, and we played them in their half for the bulk of the second half. We just kept them pinned there, scrum, lineouts, and stuff. And that's how you play World Cup matches. So we played them a World Cup style match, and people will understand that later when you start getting closer to the World Cup, you'll see those tactics when teams start getting more conservative. So I think our tactics were extremely well thought out, and the way those players played. Yes, I have my opinion about Sasha and Mani, but they still. But those players also have to. So you asked me about the Irish players; they have 2 years. Our players also have 2 years, so Sasha will get better in 2 years. He might not be the finished product now. He might be a bit naive in his play. And Mani is getting some of his kicks still go very wayward. The other time I saw him kick a ball backwards again. But they've got 2 years. Our players also have 2 years to get better. So will the Irish get better? I just don't think they have the depth to improve on what they produce in 2023. I'm afraid their best bet is pass. But then, so again, I mean, England is got a bit of bully, so they're not going to get better. Scotland is over the hill. Their best players are gone. There's nothing going on in Wales. So you're looking at France and New Zealand as our best bet. And I don't think Australia is going to be much of a challenge because they also don't have a depth or a talent pool.
Yeah, I can actually see Australia regressing as well. I think Adam from the Interpro show, who was on the special episode of the URC Rewind with myself and John this Friday night. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. That almost did 1,000 views. It's the first time we've ever done a special episode. It's the first time I'd ever hosted the URC Rewind. Usually it's you, who's also on Megaphone Rugby, or super producer Lee. So yeah, Adam would be quite happy to hear you reference the fact that they're a bit overly obsessed with Leinster. Yes, like you say, it works okay in Italy with Benetton. Benetton's basically the team, and Zebre Parma or Quagga Parma, if you fancy, is the feeder team. But yeah, they've got three other provinces. Why don't they sort of spread it around a little? There's definitely something towards that. Speaking of England, Jan, England actually overcame Argentina in a very close game. Argentina could have won it at the death. England, of course, Tim Nkosi's least favorite team. Jan, how do you feel about Argentina's tour of the North this November?
Yeah, they had their moments. The problem with Argentina is before they joined Super Rugby, and they had a team that constantly played against South African New Zealand teams. They could build their national team. Now their national team is spread again, so they don't have that depth either. So to get a team together for this tour, they don't have enough time to build cohesion. And they struggled a bit and they were not consistent enough. But they're still a strong team. I still see them as a potentially semi-final team at the World Cup. They need to get a bit more game time before the World Cup, which I presume they will in 2027. And then they'll be because they got some incredibly talented backs. Their forwards are not as good as they used to be, but they really have some good, they put a lot of emphasis on the seventh circuit, and that's where they get their backline skills from. So you can never write Argentina off, and I think they will be a good semi-final bet in 2027.
Yeah, I see Argentina getting improving, but even though Australia are hosting the World Cup, they seem to be regressing. Maybe it's just the exhaustion of the season and such a small player pool. Temi Kosi, were you able to catch a Friday night fixture of the Poms versus the Argies?
Yes, I actually did. It was actually an interesting match. Up until, well, I thought that England was going to go and run away with it after the strong first half that they had. But Argentina really stood their ground. It seems like they're also a second half team, and they were pushing hard to actually win that game. In terms of, just to also just comment on what Jan was saying, in terms of their season, I think they did really well. Yes, the players are kind of all over, and sometimes they don't have all their players. But I think if what is the Super Rugby Americas, if that one keeps going, at least they have some sort of place where all those players play together before they actually spread up and go to Europe. So they're building slowly, and I think yeah, I feel like I can confidently say that they are a tough team because now looking back, even the past 3 World Cups, I think they were bronze or fourth. So it means that they're really building on a nice trajectory.
Jan, your thoughts on the Argentinian team sort of building nicely?
I think the one thing that stands out to me is the fact that they've got a very creative coach who he almost gives me Rassi vibes in terms of he realizes he can't use business as normal. He has to go with business not normal. So that sort of gives him the freedom. And one thing I know, I watched a podcast where they were speaking to Julio Montoya, and it was actually very interesting because he said they actually do a lot of digital work, similar to what we're doing now. Like they would have Zoom meetings in the middle of the week and things like that, where the forwards would run through their stuff and just chat based on what they've seen in the Prem or the top 14 or the URC or wherever they're playing. They would sort of get together and have these sessions where even just mentally running through the drill. I don't know if anybody's seen like what the Blue Angels and those guys do with the group visualization exercises, where there's one person that sort of starts the clock and then everyone says, for example, in a mall, it would be the number 4 would be like, I come down, I fall in, and then the 5, 6, 7 all sound off. We're tying in, we're pushing forward, etc., etc., etc. So I think they use a lot of that methodology of saying we know the physical part is going to take care of itself because we play rugby, we're professionals, we're big, we're strong, we're competent. If we get the mental side, if we keep it sharp, we don't have to wait until the second or third game of a series, and I think that's what allowed them to upset New Zealand and to upset Australia so much this year. And I think perhaps that's what played into their hands last year was the fact that they could prepare without being together. They sort of have digital alignment camps. But I'm very excited for Argentinian rugby. They are perhaps the only team in rugby that enjoy meat, flames, and red wine as much as we do. So it's good to have a similar culture in the top 4. It can't just all be creamy pints and rainy weather.
Yeah, I enjoy the first of those two. Speaking of upsetting New Zealand, Thembikosi's favorite second team, New Zealand, was so upset that predictably they put 50 points on Wales. Thembikosi, what are you taking from this game? besides a big
I
smile?
think I think Scott Robertson is happy that the season is over. I think he's been waiting for this. Is now he can go back and find the rest. And I think for the next few weeks, everyone will be off his back. Everyone will
Mm.
stop complaining about how New Zealand is playing. So, yeah, it was a good game. I can't really talk much about it. I can't say that New Zealand were great. They beat Wales, and Wales scored 4 goals. I mean, 4 tries, which is concerning that you're leaking 4 tries to Wales, but yet you won by a big margin. But there's still lingering questions that we've been asking the whole year, and they're not sorted. But it was nice to see Ruben Love play. I thought they should have gave him the whole game, but yeah, he did make a defensive error that kind of led to a try. I understand why they took him off, but I feel like they should have let him play. And in terms of everyone else, I want to say that they're testing new combinations, but it was mostly due to injuries. So it was nice to see other people playing than the normal New Zealand team, because we've been seen as a pretty straightforward New Zealand team throughout the whole season. So it was nice to see them a little bit changed, but I don't think they should be as happy as they are about that Wales win. They should just be glad.
Jan, what are your thoughts on Razor's tenure now that he's completed his second year at the helm?
He's also got a problem with building a team. I think he's got a bit more time because people don't. His problem was that in Canterbury, they all think in the same way about rugby. So the Crusaders are always people used to go there. But now he's got a lot of new players who not necessarily think, because they also come from the Highlanders, or there's guys that's coming from the Hurricanes and some from the Blues. So the guys think slightly different about the game, and he hasn't melded it into a constructive unit yet. But I think his depth is also another problem. I think people underestimate how bad Super Rugby really is. It looks pretty on TV and looks impressive on TV, but the physicality of Super Rugby, if you see how the Springboks stood up to, I know there was Auckland. There were two blimps on the Springbok. It's Ellis Park and Auckland. But if you look at what happened in Wellington when the Springboks played to their true potential, how much better they are than the All Blacks. And I think people overlook that the All Blacks are not consistent, one, and they are not nearly as physical as they used to be. So when the Springboks are on song, physically they bullied the All Blacks more than they bullied Ireland. And tactically, that was one of Sasha's best games ever. And, there's a lot of hype around Sasha, but that's a true view of how good he can be and how bad New Zealand can be. And I think that should have the alarm bells ringing in New Zealand. And that's why there's people that are already starting to ask questions about Razor and his tenure and whether he's going to see the World Cup in 2027.
Jean, considering that we're going to face New Zealand 4 times next year toward the in the middle of the year, the Rugby Greatest Rivalry Tour, which players stood out for you in this much changed team that put 50 points on Wales?
Um, I'll tell you this first of all. I don't know where Riku Ioane fits in this all black outfit, because he doesn't to me have the space or vision, the pace or vision to be a wing, and he certainly lacks the defensive cohesiveness to be a center. So I think that is a conundrum, because he's a very talented player, but the only reason Wales upped their record of points scored against New Zealand in a single match from 21 to 25 or 26 was the fact that Rico Ioane is more concerned about drifting than committing to a tackle. And I think for a 13 in a defensive situation, you have to be able to make that critical read and go, that's the guy I need to hit. I've got the pace and I'm backing myself to make that hit. I mean, Jesse Creel's a perfect example of this. And I would take no other center over Jesse Creel for purely on defense, right? He always knows where to shoot in and either to completely shut down the space or to hit the right person. And I think that is a conundrum that Razor is struggling with. I think Ruben Love was pretty good, and I think they've got a couple of other guys, but there's two things that concern me for New Zealand. If I put myself in their shoes. One, they're a team struggling with their own identity because they're known as a team who play passing, fluid, connected rugby. And I think a rush defense completely strips them of that ability. And they're struggling to adapt into kicking, which is the second point, is their aerial skills are not where it needs to be. That's where England dominated them. That's where we dominated them. And I think if Scotland and Ireland had backed themselves in the air just a little bit more, it, their season might have looked a bit different. But I think we know where we got them, and how to get them. But yeah, Razor's got a lot of time to sit down and plan his way into the next um, into the next few matches. And I think also we just cannot discount the absolute factory of magic players that they have down there. Their skill set coming out of school level, different degree. That is one thing where they are not lacking. They might not have size, and they might not be as physical as other teams, but their skill set is still one of the highest that you.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect because Ricky Ioane is going on a sabbatical to Leinster, and that also links to the fact that Leinster brought Jacques Nienaber in, and he's managing the defense. And if Ireland is so obsessed, it's like 3 degrees of separation. If Ireland is so obsessed with just mimicking Leinster, is that sort of a struggle that Farrell's having, similar to Razor, in terms of Razor's got all these different teams. He used to just coach Crusaders to a much success. And now Farrell's got this thing of like Lancaster used to be at Leinster, and things at Leinster used to fit a bit more perfectly into the Irish setup. But now Nidab is there, and he's got a completely different setup to what they're doing in Ireland.
Yeah, it is an interesting conundrum for them. And the Irish media, or the Irish crybabies, as I like to call them, they're having a proper meltdown about Jacques Nienaber. I see there's people that suggest that Jacques Nienaber is just a spy because he said that in 4 years' time, or whenever he's finished with his Leinster contract, he might rejoin the Rassie. Now they say, yeah, you see, he's just a spy there. But that just comes because we beat them, and they're under pressure. They haven't won they've lost a couple of key games. I think at Leinster it works because they've now had a proper season to work with Jacques, and they've adjusted. Those players adjust. When they come to Ireland and it's suddenly a different defense coach, then they have trouble adjusting again. So you got the same group of players playing one pattern for Leinster on defense, and when they come to Ireland, it's a slightly different pattern, and they struggle with that. And that's not something that you adjust in a week or two. It takes time. We saw initially Leinster struggled with Jacques' defense pattern, and then they got it right, and now they're a good team again. So that's a big problem for them, is the same players playing two different patterns, or under two different sets of coaches. So Leo, Cullen, and Jacques get on very well, and you can see that when those guys are at Leinster, they look proper. And then suddenly when they get to Ireland, there seems to be some confusion. But yeah, that happens when you've got two coaches. I think in Italy they've managed that a lot better. In Scotland they've also managed a lot better. That's why Franco Smith is so heavily involved in the national setup, and most likely will be the guy to take over when their coach moves on. But in Ireland it's very different. They don't seem to have that connection between Leinster at domestic level and Leinster at Ireland at national level, which is essentially the same players.
Now, how is Rassie managing this? How is his connection with the four URC franchises?
He's got a very good connection. I mean, there are issues. I mean, we know that the Lions have got their own problems, but Rassie sends his people around. I mean, Dwayne has been to the franchise, Dwayne's been to the Cheetahs. So they've got the guys, and they avail themselves. Rassie's difference is that he has these alignment camps, and people must never underestimate something that John said earlier about the digital way that the Argentinians operate. Russia's alignment camps is very similar. He brings the guys. It's not a camp where the guys spend a lot of time on the field and a lot of balls and training and eating tackle bags and stuff. They sit in a room and they align themselves with the ideas. And Russia is very good at organizing and spending his or using his time. So, if he's got 3 days with these guys, he gets so much work into them. So when they eventually get to a training field, those guys are all on the same page. They know that when they go to the Lions, that's what I'm going to do. That's the tackle system I'm going to use. They get to the Bulls know that's exactly what we do under Johan Ackerman. But when they get to Rassie, they've had time with Rassie. They understand, they get into the system. And I think we're better at switching. Also, the Japan guys, they do digital alignment camps. The same with the overseas guys. Rassie aligns them, but they bring him into digital aligning camps. And I think that's where we are so far ahead of the rest of the world is when you can't be physically training all the time, but you can still prepare properly. And that's where Russia is very good. And he's big on numbers. He's big on stats. He's big on, he calls it getting into battles. Take one, Jasper Wiese, people understand, oh, yeah, he looks, he didn't have a good game. And then you go see the numbers that he produces, like the most carries in the game. And I think he had 9 tackles and 15 carries, or I'm talking about it will be 13 or 15 carries and 9 tackles. And people don't see that. And they say, oh, yeah, he didn't have a good game. He had a quiet game. He was doing all the donkey work. But the Russia's principle is, how many battles are you getting into? It doesn't matter how many mistakes you make. How many battles are you getting into? And that work rate and work ethic is what other people don't get out of their players and what Russia does get out of his.
Yeah, a very interesting aspect we've seen before. So before we move on to previewing the Wales versus South Africa game, we're just going to take a moment to give Malcolm Marx his flowers because he went on to win the World Rugby Player of the Year award. Also, shout out to the other nominees from the South African team, Peter Steph, who's won it twice, and Oxen Che. They went up against Liu Bielbiere, as well as Fabian Holland. He won the Breakthrough Player of the Year, and shout out to Ethan Hooker. I'm sure our former panelist who had to unfortunately take a break from the pod for a bit to focus on her day job, Elisa B, is happy that Henry Pollard did not win it. So that's that aspect. Jean, we're recording on Wednesday, the 26th of November. We do not have the team yet. The team's going to be announced tomorrow, Thursday, 27th of November. We're going to see a much changed team. What are you looking to get out of this game against Wales at the Principality?
Yeah, I think looking at the way Wales, I don't want to say fought back, but stayed in contest with New Zealand over the weekend. This could be a chance to try some things. One, will be able to see can our younger, less experienced, and maybe some of the older, more veteran players keep the pace of running rugby, and the Tony Brown ball, as they call it. Can they keep that up? The other thing is just, I think it's good experience. Wales is always a physical team. They're a hard team. They definitely don't lie down. So, and they've got good players. I know their union is a mess, but their talent is not too bad. So I think as far as getting guys time in the hot seat, it's as good a team as any. And I think as far as a physical contest go, a lot of Welsh players don't shy away from that. I know they pride themselves on being physically strong, on being hard people. Much the same way we do here in South Africa. We see ourselves as hard people living in harsh conditions. So yeah, I think it's a good place to test a few things. I do think it's going to be an interesting team with the amount of players not available. Because a lot of players have had to go back to their URC franchises. I saw that Pollard is available for the Bulls. I think this will be, if he plays, his first time in a Bulls shirt since 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, yeah, 2019, because he finished the 2019 season with the Bulls and then left to Montpellier. So yeah, I think it's a good place for some experimentation and some experience gained. But obviously there will be some steady heads to see the game out. We know Rassie always keeps at least one or two steady heads in the team to guide them
Yeah,
if things get a bit
the
intense.
balance of youth and experience is going to be interesting. The Sharks got a few players back, like Grant Williams was allowed to leave. Evan van der Merwe left the Springbok team early because of the birth of his first child, but now he's flown back to Europe. So I don't know how, with the Sharks, he's going to be playing against Connacht. We'll preview the URC a bit later. Um, Jan, can you talk us through the pros and cons and the thinking of the Springbok team scheduling a game with Wales during the same time as URC round 6?
I think it's a money spinner for Wales. They're in desperate need of money. So I think this game is arranged to get some money for Wales. But they shot themselves in the foot because I think, we know the Springboks have lost a number of players, but Wales is fielding a very, very young, inexperienced team. So they've got a big problem. And they don't have the depth that we have. So we can, like we said earlier, I mean, the Springboks can field two teams. This might even be our third team, which is still should be good enough to beat Wales comfortably. Wales don't have the depth, and it's going to be. I'll be surprised if they get within 20 points of the Springboks. I really will be surprised. But I mean, if you want to have a money spinner, you're going to have it at a time where you can actually put up a performance or the type of team that will fill up the stadium. I'm not sure they're going to get more than 50,000 in that 80,000 seater stadium.
Yeah, it's interesting because they put up England, when they hosted New Zealand, was setting it up like, well, we want to win the game. Wales, when we watched the Wales game this weekend against New Zealand, it was more like, look, we're probably going to lose. We've got an inexperienced team, but we're going to give the crowd an experience. We're going to dim the lights. We're going to put the spotlight on the haka. We're going to put a mic at the haka as well, which England didn't do. So I need to actually check what numbers they got, but it was reasonably well attended. So yeah, it was probably a money spinner for them in that respect as well. Temikosi, I look forward to these types of games because unlike Ireland, I like the fact that the Springboks do rotate and bring in fresh players and mix the youth with experience and still put on a show and win games. I believe Mone van der Berg and Asnati Klabakane from your Lions are going to be in the mix. Are you excited to see them play at a higher level?
Yeah, actually, it would be a good thing if they actually get to play. I'm not sure what the team is gonna look like. Hopefully, they weren't gonna do what they did last week at Wales, where the stadium they lit fireworks in a closed arena. Please don't suffocate people like that. But I'm assuming that the team is gonna be like the one against Italy, and yeah, if we're taking Wales and their clubs, it's going to be interesting if they're going to prioritize the Wales international match or if they're going to prioritize the clubs for most of the players to see who will eventually end up where. However, I don't see, yeah, like Jan said, I don't see us losing, but it would be interesting to see how which team will actually play that game and how the combinations will work. It would be nice to see like another Moody hooker center partnership, maybe with the different combinations of the outside backs. It would be interesting to see how Russell will pick the team.
Yeah, we might also have a special URC Rewind episode this Friday because our colleagues, this Global Gainlines YouTube channel is basically born out of the fact of the rap YouTube channel, which is the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. And on there used to be a URC Rewind, which then gave birth to the Interpro show, as well as the Bit of an Animal, which you're watching right now. We do not have we don't need a Welsh podcast on here because it's already on the app. And we do not have a Scottish Italian podcast as of yet. In fact, we've lost our Scottish presenter on the URC Rewind, Policeman Ben. Unfortunately, he also had to step away for work commitments. So there's still an opportunity there if anyone's watching and you're Scottish or Italian and you want to join us with respect to that. Unfortunately, as alluded to earlier, Lisa B also had to step away. So we're looking for a Stormer supporter or a South African rugby supporter. I would love it if a Griquas supporter joined us. I mean, you are Currie Cup champions and worthy champions at that. This Welsh game will kick off at 5 South African time. I certainly will be tuning in. Now we look forward to the URC round 6. And we start on Saturday at 2:00. And it's Jan hosting Tembe Nkosi at the Bull Rink in Pretoria. Jan, you're at home. Prediction?
Yeah, I think this one's going to go the way of the Bulls. As much as it pains me to say it, I have respect for the guys from Joburg. They certainly seem to find and develop talent just to sell it off. But yeah, I think the Bulls currently with the coaching setup they have, and especially in the forwards, the dominance. I don't think it might be a first half dominance. I think maybe second half. And yeah, just being able to push back and get penalties. If Pollard plays at 10, I'm sure it's going to be in the back of their mind. If the attack is going nowhere, let's just get a penalty in their half. Polly puts it over for 3, and start building that scoreboard pressure time and time again. I don't think it'll be a big margin though. That's my expectation. I would say 7 to 10 points at most.
Then because you don't have much of a disruptive team, you guys have been training together for a while, 3 weeks in fact. You're not playing away like the Sharks and the Stormers. Your anticipation of this game?
I'm thinking it's going to be a tight game. I think it's just going to be a tight game. Come to think about it, yes, the Bulls are missing much more players, but the players that they already have, and like they already poached again another player. It's like I think I'm like a factory for anyone in the URC or in the South African development. Like if you want a player and you need someone to train them for a little while, come to the Lions. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I'm hoping that we can give an upset, especially because it's Ackerman. I think he needs to suffer a little from the Lions. It would be just service for going across the N1 without even notifying us or something like that. So I really hope he gets bashed.
The Yixke derby. Interesting developments recruitment-wise, because Chris Smith, having returned from France, is very much the Lions' first choice guy. I thought that Kate Voliter and Lulabalo Dobela were fighting it out to be the second choice. Dobela sort of coming through the 7 system. Kate Voliter, 24 years old, schools rugby phenom, most interestingly enough, didn't go into the Western Province youth system out of school. He actually went to Montpellier, so he was in the youth system there. Then coming back and actually playing for Western Province. In fact, I think he played for the Stormers before Western Province, but unfortunately, multiple knee injuries displaced him quite a bit. It's revived his career somewhat at the Lions, but Jan, what exactly happened between Kate Voliter and the Lions Currie Cup coach? Because I understand they had a little bit of a fallout during the Currie Cup.
A little bit of a fallout. I don't know if this is PG rated, but of course he dropped an F-bomb on him and he told him, "You will never effing play for me again." That was after a horror show by Kate. The promise, I'll get to the Lions now, but I think Kate is a player that's never lived up the hype that was built up around him at school level. You know, he was a really talented player, and I know he had his injuries, but he never settled anywhere. You know, he had his struggles in France. He had his struggles at Western Province, and then he had knee injuries, and he never settled at the Lions. And he seems to be also lacking confidence. Maybe Ackerman is the type of coach. I don't have confidence that it will happen, but maybe Ackerman is the type of coach that can give him a few hugs and maybe he'll feel better about himself and start playing to his true potential. But I don't have much confidence. I've seen enough of Volliter to suggest that he's not going to make it. He's just not physical enough. He's got the skills, but I don't think he's the type of flyer that the Bulls can afford. The other problem for me is the Lions, and I'm afraid their problem is that the two of their best key players. So they've lost Klabakane. That first of all impacts on their scrums and also on their carries. So the two big things that he brings them is ball over the advantage line and solid scrums. So they're losing that already. And then they got Krappies, who's their main playmaker. So they've lost that as well. So now you've got two key issues that's missing, or two ingredients that's missing from their team that's going to impact them. That means I think, and personally, I think the Bulls just got too much depth. It won't be a runaway score. I agree with the guys. It'll be a tight game, but I think the key is they don't have those players that can play the big moments for them. So yeah, I think it'll be a blue win on Saturday.
Yeah, Krappies is Bonne van der Berg's nickname, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good. Yeah. Temikosi, you should know that. I didn't know. All right. So the game of the week, really, we move to our next, kicking off at 7:30 on Saturday. Munster versus Stormers. I mean, of all the games this round 6, this one's going to be fantastic. I wish it was away from Ireland because Ireland just played last week, so I don't know how many the Munster players that are involved in Ireland are going to play. I think they probably will, especially Casey. We'll have to see when the teams are announced. And I wish that the Springboks wasn't clashing with the Springboks game, because like a full strength Munster versus a full strength Stormers is must see TV. But even in this, guys, at Munster's home stadium, I'm really looking forward to it. Your score prediction, John?
Munster versus Stormers, it's definitely a hard one to call. Stormers did surprise us. I don't know who they have available though. I reckon Jean Klein will probably be back. Jean Klein will be back. Crowley will be back. So I think Munster's going to bring an A side, and we know if there's one thing I would almost say where Munster's got the advantage over Leinster is they've got a lot more fight in them. They're not the type of team that goes away because the system doesn't work. Munster is the kind of team who will problem solve. They'll be trailing you 5 points at halftime, come out after 15 minutes, have a plan, and be like, right, now it's do or die. And I feel like Munster's slowly becoming the bogey team. So I think Munster probably by 5. Sorry
Yeah,
for
we
the
got to also
Stormers-
clarify
sorry for
that
the
it's
Stormers
this.
fans there.
Yeah, it's this year's Munster. This year's Munster is like completely transformed. I don't think that their previous coach was a bad coach. And I'm not just saying that because I saw him on the side of the road and had a quick chat when I was running the Cape Town Marathon. But yeah, under the new New Zealand coach, the mindset, somehow they have less injuries. Somehow they sorted out the SNC. There's just a freshness and a focus about Munster. This is legitimately a top of the log clash. Temikosi, your score prediction?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. Now I'm gonna go to, even though I don't like the Stormers, I think I'm gonna go with the Stormers in this one. They've been surprising us. We did not think that they were gonna be where they are right now when the season started, but they're here. So it would be interesting to see if even some of the internationals, if they're not playing Saturday, would they, like, let's say Sasha is not playing on Saturday, is he going to be available for the Stormers, or are they going to just give him like a week off because they're already in Europe? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But if I had to predict a score, yeah, I'm gonna go say maybe Stormers by like 3. Like I'm looking at Mattia. I'm hoping that he gets like some sort of drop goal, not a drop goal, like a last minute penalty or something to win the match. But it's gonna be a really tough game. Ever since was this Clayton came to Monster, they are playing like the Chiefs. They have like you see the last 3 seasons of the Chiefs. You can actually see it in Monster right now.
Oh, interesting. Jan, top of the table clash, two unbeaten teams, immovable object, irresistible force. Who do you have?
I would make Munster favourites just because it's a home game. And they are a team on form. They are having a really good season. So they will be favourites. But I want to be play devil's advocate and say that if the Stormers pull this one off, because they're a team currently that got really good self-confidence, even though they have been without most of their Springboks. They've got such good confidence as a unit, and they've also been training like most teams. They've been training without their Springboks for the last 3 weeks, and those are the guys that played for them early in the season. I think if they can pull off a win this weekend, the Stormers are going to win the URC this year again. Munster can obviously put a dent in that, and Munster will start as favourites, but I've got a good feeling about the Stormers. Not as a Stormers man, I'm not a Stormers man even though I live in Cape Town, but I think there's something special happening that we saw in the original URC, in the inaugural URC, that we're seeing this season at the Stormers again.
Jan, just to clarify, I also live in Cape Town. I support the Sharks. I forget, which team do you support?
I won't say it too loudly, but unfortunately, my team is also based at Ellis Park.
We've got 2 lines on the podcast this week. I think Temikosi also got a text from our former colleague. She's already taking a break. She'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, Lisa B, because she's very much a Stormers supporter, and she's the captain of the Evan Roos fan club. So we move on to the last game of the week at 7:30. My Sharks go all the way to windy, uncomfortable, stormy Galway to take on Stuart Lancaster's Connacht. A couple of housekeeping notes on the Sharks. Long-time stalwart Lucanio Am has moved on from the Sharks. He's gone over to play in Japan, much deserved. So we'd like to thank him for his service. Lucanio Am, who obviously took over from me. JP Peterson used to be my all-time favorite Springbok, and Lucanio Am took over because he was just at one point, for a long period of time, not just the best outside centre in the world, but just the best player in the world. I still remember fondly sort of the behind the back pass and that type of thing. So other housekeeping notes are that the Sharks lost lesser known lock / veteran blindside flank Gideon Kochlenberg for the 5th time. Gideon Kochlenberg, who joined the Sharks and left four times. He left once more, having just recently come back to play in the 2nd division in Japan. So thank you for him for his service. Gideon Kochlenberg, of course, once he retires, will have a very flourishing career as a Harry Maguire impersonator because he looks exactly like Harry Maguire. All right, guys. Sharks, I don't think we're going to win this game. That's my prediction. Temikosi, do you think, or score prediction, Connacht Sharks?
If you guys don't win this match, then I don't know. I seriously don't know. Like we've been like, I think the Sharks are the least consistent team out of all of them, and I'm a Lion supporter saying this, and I feel like we are better than you guys at this moment, even though you have a better roster than us.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I think we're close. The problem with the Sharks is that, like, we've got some of the injured guys back. It's just so difficult to predict. We've won 1 game out of 5. We've drawn another game. We lost 3. So, unfortunately, Siama Suku's also injured. He's a key player, but we've got Currie Cup winning fly-off George Whitehead in his cover. I'm glad to see Currie Cup winning captains Sebo Glamini still in the mix. That guy's got good potential. Very young still. I wish we win, but I can't really see it happening. And besides, Connacht didn't lose. Well, who did Connacht lose to the national team? They lost Australia, Mac return of the Mac Hansen, but he's injured. Bundy Aki probably won't run out for them. But I think the conditions are going to be too much for us, to be honest. Jan, Sharks or Connacht?
Yeah, I'll put my money on Connacht. I won't put my house on Connacht, but I'll put my money on Connacht simply because of the conditions. The Sharks game plan revolves around being clinical. And when conditions go against them, that all goes out the door for some other reason. I don't know what they're probably. They can't even catch the ball in a humid Durban. So I'm not sure how they're going to catch a ball with a gale blowing at 100 miles an hour at you. The reality is that in Connacht, some of you might be familiar with it at the Green Mile in Cape Town. But Connacht has that one field where the wind comes through the stadium and sometimes the ball comes back at you. It doesn't matter where, unless you kick it on the ground and roll it on the ground, it'll blow back at you. The wind can get nasty. So I haven't seen the actual weather prediction, but very seldom do you have a calm evening in Galway. So I think the Sharks are going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Jan, while we have you here this week, it's clear that this is Plumtree's last season with us in his second stint in coaching. Who do you think's going to take over, and who would you advise takes over from Plumtree?
Jake White.
Well, if the monkey paw,
No, I'm talking. I said Sean, but I meant to say Jan. Everybody's got a J in there. Hey, sorry. Jan, you want Jake White to take over?
No, I was being cynical, don't worry.
But in all seriousness, I think it's going to be Muscle Man Stonehouse. Do you think that's the most likely?
No, I don't know. It's a possibility. They are working with Jimmy. They are talking to him.
Yeah,
there is that cooperation. He deserves a game like it. My problem is just that Jimmy's culture, Jimmy's personality does not suit the flashy boy. I mean, if you think the Cape Town guys are surfer boys, I mean, the Sharks guys are very different. So there's too many egos there. So I'm not sure if they will cope with Jimmy's brash personality. He's a very good person. I'm very fond of Jimmy and I get on with him very well. But I think it's going to be a big problem for the team to adjust to that. From Plumtree, which is a more relaxed, almost a blasé type coach, to Jimmy Stonehouse, it's going to be a big problem for them.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I've spoken to a bunch of the Pumas players, and they love Jimmy Stonehouse. Also, if you watch their Instagram, he doesn't take himself too seriously. There was an Instagram of him showing them cards and stuff like that, and shuffling cards as if he was like at a casino. The only person I've ever seen shuffle cards like that in person is someone I studied alongside. So shout out to Sven Sorensen. So Jimmy was doing that. There was a video of him on the Pumas Inside Center's Instagram where Jimmy was singing Sweet Caroline at like karaoke and things like that. So my understanding is that he's a very balanced coach in terms of he'll have fun with you, but he'll be serious in other points in this as well. So we'll move on to Jean for real this time. Jean, Connacht going to win by 10 points or 20 points?
I'll be the devil's advocate on this one and say I would actually not be that surprised if the Sharks manage to squeak it. Simply by just discarding that game plan that Jan described and going to punch up rugby. I think that's where they will get the most return on investment, if we want to use the polite terms. But I think if the Sharks really go to punch up rugby, channel one runners, not flashy, not kicking, keep it basic and just grind your way. Like if you find yourself in the 22, just keep punching till you get there. I mean, we've seen it time and again. I even said the other day, I think it's better for teams in today's rugby environment if you are on your second warning on your own try line. I would rather you concede the 7 points than infringe again and get the yellow card. Like rather let them score the try. Make the tackles and everything, but if they score the try, it's fine. 7 points, you can go and score a try. Lose a man, that's down for 10 minutes. So I think if the Sharks play it right, they can do it. I think the odds are Connacht by 10, but if we see Sharks by 3, I will be saying I told you so next week. And if the monkey paw truly exists and it kills, the Sharks will get Eddie Jones as head coach.
Yeah. I used to joke about Eddie Jones, and my perception of Eddie Jones was just sort of like a fun character type thing. And obviously, he was a part of Jake White's World Cup winning setup and things like that, and he's done much since. However, Adam from the Interpro show also explained to me some of the stuff Eddie Jones said while he was at the England coach, just to get under the Irish and Welsh team skin, and some of it was banter and some of it was a little too edgy for my liking. I'll let Adam say so, repeat those things. Guys, that brings us to the end of the show. I'd like to thank Jan De Koning for joining us. Earlier I said you were arguably the best rugby journalist in South Africa, but the reality is that what I meant to say was you're the consensus rugby journalist in South Africa, and that says a lot, because what people don't understand is that we do a lot of things good in South Africa, but one of them, on the field and off the field, one of them is journalism. And I can point to the Daily Maverick as it relates to that. In terms of just investigative journalism and sports journalism, it's not just heart transplants that we're kicking butts in this country. So Jan, thanks for joining us. All right, thumbs up from Jan. And then John, Demikosi, until next week, as we say at the end of every episode, in Rassie, we trust.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here, wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day. Yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.